Hi, and welcome back. In this video, we will deep dive into the leadership agility model and explore it together. We've learned about the expert, the achiever, and the catalyst leader. Now let's look at how all of those are connected to each other. The leadership agility framework or model is a so-called maturity model. So contrary to MBTI, where you have a specific type of personality, the leadership agility model allows for people to go from one area or from one stage to the next. Let's explore those stages briefly in this video and how they're all connected. The expert leader, which we have explored in more depth in one of our previous videos, defines themselves based on their expertise. And their expertise is all about how we get things done in a specific area. The expert leader is very much focused on the tactical pieces. The achiever leader, in contrast to the expert leader, defines themselves not based on their expertise, but based on their achievements, hence the term. The achiever leader also, contrary to the expert, not only looks at tactics, but especially at the strategy. So the how becomes less relevant, the what becomes more relevant. Finally, the catalyst leader. They define themselves as someone who helps the overall organization deliver value for customers and employees much faster. That's what a catalyst does. In order to do that, they provide a shared understanding around purpose and vision for the organization. That alignment allows everybody to take much better, much more informed decisions about where to go and how to get there. My preferred way of visualizing the leadership agility model is this funnel, because it shows us that certain dimensions have to increase in order to move from expert to achiever and finally to catalyst. So what are those dimensions? Of course, on the horizontal axis we have time. Every journey, every maturity model takes time. Some people might go through it faster than others, but still it takes time to move from expert to achiever to catalyst. More importantly are two other things. Because it's not only time that helps people move from one stage in their life to the next stage in their life. In order to achieve maturity, you actually have to do stuff. First of all, it's about having self-awareness and situational awareness. So the awareness piece is key. Because unless you have awareness that your current leadership style does not scale, you're probably not going to explore or investigate other ways of leading and ultimately become a better leader. You can get to more awareness through using various techniques. You can run, for example, a 360 assessment. There is actually one for the leadership agility model, but you can take any other 360 assessment as well. You can also use other techniques to increase your level of awareness, both with regards to yourself, but also with regards to the situations that you're in. Meditation is a great practice for increasing your personal awareness. No matter how big your awareness is, awareness itself is not going to make the change. In order to make the change, you have to do stuff. You have to practice stuff. I refer to this as deliberate practice. Because unless you practice, you're not going to have your neurons in your mind build new connections, new highways, and through that, new habits that ultimately drive your new way of acting, especially in modes of crisis. So when we look at this model, we see that A, it's a maturity model. You can move from expert to achiever to catalyst. B, we realize that there are multiple factors that contribute to this journey. It all starts out with time, but time in itself is not going to solve the problem. You need to build up more and more self-awareness and situational awareness, and most importantly, you need to practice. There's a great quote referenced back to Aristotle, and it says, "You are what you repeatedly do." There's also a great book written by Ben Horowitz by the title, "What You Do Is Who You Are." So if you want to move from expert to achiever to catalyst leader, it's all about the things that you do. I always refer to this leadership being the next 5 minutes. What you do in the next 5 minutes determines what type of leader you are. Before we end this video and the overview of the Leadership Agility model, there's one more thing that I want to explore with you. You probably remember the example that I shared with you when we were exploring the expert leader. In that particular situation, we were talking about a young doctor being in the emergency room, and when a patient comes in with all the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, the attending, the more senior doctor, rolling up their sleeves and saving the patient's lives. What I want you to do right now is to think for a moment about the following question. We considered rolling up their sleeves and saving the patient's life as being a benefit of the expert leader. How would an achiever, how would a catalyst leader respond in that situation? Ideally, the catalyst leader, being self-aware and being situationally aware, would realize that no other doctor can save that specific patient's life. So what the catalyst leader would need to do is to roll up their sleeves and save the life of the patient themselves, actually acting as an expert. So when we look at this, leadership agility is all about having the ability to act as expert, as achiever, and as catalyst based on the situation at hand. Bill Joyner frequently says, every achiever has an expert in them, and every catalyst has an achiever and an expert in them. It's not about being an achiever 100% of the time. But if the situation allows you to be an achiever, it's the best thing you can do because you can empower other people to do the work based on the information that they have. But if the situation asks you to be an expert in order to save that patient's life, you need to roll up your sleeves and get to work. I love sports, and as part of that, I also bring in a lot of sports analogies. So to provide you with a much better understanding of what leadership agility is all about, I like to take a look at tennis. One of my favorite players is Roger Federer. And he is my favorite player because he wins not based on his strength, but based on his ability, based on his technique, on how he mastered the sport of tennis. Part of mastering the sport was that Roger Federer is able to serve the ball in many different ways. He doesn't only have one serve. And based on the situation where he is in, when he's opening the game or where he's closing the game, where he's serving against his opponent, winning a game, or when it's his first or second serve, he can always play a different serve. He's able to do that within a match, within a situation of high stress, because he has practiced those serves multiple times, hundreds, thousands, maybe 10,000s of times. So he has built the muscle memory, he has built the habits of delivering the serves whenever it is most crucial, most necessary. In contrast to an athlete, in contrast to Roger Federer, we don't spend 95% of our time in practice and 5% of our time within the game. As leaders, we spend probably 95 to 99% of our time in the game, acting as leaders, and 1% of our time in practice, when you're watching this video or attending a seminar. So what you need to do as someone who spends the vast majority of their time in the game is to create situations in the game where you can practice new skills, build up new habits. It's not enough to only use those 1% to 5% of your time where you're practicing in order to become a better leader. As part of this module, I will also share some concrete tips and tricks on how you can practice while being part of the game. See you in those videos.